The mainstream media are very good at not really reporting on stories that don't fit the mainstream narrative. What stories am I talking about? Anything to do with the religion of Islam. They will, if it's negative, they will put the story down the very, very far list. So it's very hard for you to actually find those stories. But a couple of patriots, including myself, have found these stories, and we need to actually report on them because they're affecting everyday Aussies like myself, because mass immigration and even the religion of Islam is taking over this wonderful country of Australia. And you have lots of clerics or Muslim preachers, if you want to call them that, that are saying and chanting, yelling on all their sermons that Sharia is going to pretty much take over the West, and there's nothing you can do about it, and they're going to force it down everyone's throats. And if you don't convert to the religion of Islam, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They're going to force you to do it. So what does that tell you? Now, this particular story, this is the first one that I want to highlight for you all. An Aussie, this is the mainstream media. This is the Daily Telegraph, right? They say an Aussie preacher praises Sharia law at controversial centre in Western Sydney. Ladies and gentlemen, you are saying that this guy is an Aussie preacher, not a Muslim preacher, but an Aussie preacher who praises Sharia. We already know what Sharia is about. We know what they want, why they want it, and how they're going to go about forcing it down everyone's throats, I should say. So he says that Muslims are being belittled without Sharia law, while calling down the wrath of Allah on Western powers at a fiery sermon in Western Sydney. And guess what? Sure, the Daily Telegraph reported on this, but this is the only news source that I can find this story. And by the way, the only reason why I found this story was because, you guessed it, over on X, loads of patriotic Australians that don't want this nonsense to keep continuing found the story and shared it. But guess what? It's only 2 minutes in length. It's not that long. They don't show the actual sermon. They don't show what went on. They only say, well, he has claimed that Muslims are being belittled. We're not living under Sharia, while also taking aim at infidel Western powers that colonized the Middle East, saying, may the wrath of Allah be upon them, during a speech in Sydney. I used to live in Western Sydney, and watching Western Sydney become pretty much a utopia for Islamists at the moment is actually quite scary. It's really scary, and people should be afraid of Islam, especially when they're going, may the wrath of Allah be upon them. Gee, what does that mean? May the wrath of Allah. We know that the religion of Islam is quite violent. Peaceful? Rubbish. Why in the world? Imagine if I was to go, may the wrath of God be upon them, right? For what exactly? Oh, I'm an infidel, am I? So you don't like what I believe in. So therefore, I'm an infidel, and may the wrath of Allah be upon me because I don't believe in what you believe in. Imagine if I go to you, may the wrath of God be upon you because you don't believe in what I believe in, and that is the Almighty God. Mate, I hate to break it to you, but I don't accept that. And anyone that says anything close to this is a massive problem. Why are they allowed to say this kind of stuff in Australia? Oh, that's right. We have a wonderful thing called freedom of speech. Not really, but we think we have it. Only Muslims seem to have it because they're protected, aren't they? So they can say this nonsense, and that's like nothing will happen to them. They won't get investigated. They can shout and chant death to Israel, and nothing will happen to them. Nothing. Because police, the laws protect them. Speaking of protection under religious freedoms and all that kind of stuff, don't know if you guys remember the other Islamic preacher that wished death upon Israel, called them all kinds of names under the sun, and his videos went viral. I actually made a video about it, and that video did really well too. His name is Wissam Haddad. So his lectures were deemed as humiliating and offensive to Jewish people. Now, he was taken to court, and his lawyers argued that it wasn't breach of the Discrimination Act at all under religious freedoms. So you can, as a Muslim, under the Religious Freedoms Act, you can say whatever you want that is considered to be hateful if you consider them to be infidels. But if a Christian were to say anything about that, oh, no, you get arrested. If a Christian prays, or if a Christian holds up a sign that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, guess what happens to them? They're more than likely going to be arrested, aren't they? Like, seriously, the double standard is infuriating to me. Speeches delivered by an Islamic preacher in Western Sydney contravened the Racial Discrimination Act and were calculated to denigrate all Jewish people. Lawyers for the nation's peak Jewish body have told a judge. The Executive Council of Australian Jewry took Wissam Haddad to the federal court over a series of lectures delivered at the Al Madina Dawa Centre in Bankstown in November 2023. Mr. Haddad denies he breached the anti-discrimination laws and will argue in part that the speeches were based on religious texts. If they are based on religious texts and they go against the Jews, which we know the Quran certainly goes against the Jewish people, my goodness. So it's not just that he believes in the religious text, it's the fact the religious text says it in the first place. So that religious text, the Quran, is protected under whatever act. The religious text is able to say, go out and end the lives of any Jews you want, and that's protected. And so a Muslim reading that, believing in that, will go, okay, this is protected. So therefore, because it's protected, maybe I'm going to be protected for carrying out what my book says. Hello? On the opening day of the fourth day hearing, Peter Braham, representing the council, told the court the speeches attributed negative characteristics to Jewish people and encouraged the audience to hold those views. It's threatening, it's humiliating, and it's offensive. It's calculated to denigrate all Jewish people, including the Australian Jews for whom we appear. It's that exercise that's so dangerous, Mr. Branham said. He told Justice Angus Stewart the intent was to persuade an audience that the Jewish people have certain immutable and external characteristics that cause them to come into conflict with Muslims. Oh, the Jews are coming into conflict with Muslims, you say? Okay. And to be objects of contempt and hatred. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So Muslims, apparently, they're being attacked by Jews, not the other way around, like their Quran says. It has involved repeatedly a large range of offensive tropes about Jews. They're mischievous, they're vile people, and they're treacherous, and that they control the media and banks, etc., etc. Mr. Haddad is expected to give evidence and be cross-examined during the proceedings. Well, the update is that Mr. Haddad just had to remove the post on social media. That was it. Freedom of speech and religion is essential. Oh, yes, it's only essential if you're a Muslim. Mr. Bowe said in a democratic society, there must be room for the confronting, the challenging, even the shocking. Yes, but that doesn't free you up from consequences from the confronting, the challenging, and the shocking. So you can have it, but there must be consequences thereafter, shouldn't there? Good or bad. He said it was important in these types of cases for courts to take a rigorous and detached approach to applying the Racial Discrimination Act. We must take a rigorous and detached approach unless you're Christian. You can only take a rigorous and a detached approach if you're Muslim, though. That's the only time you can take that approach. You've got to be kidding me. That approach must maintain the intended balance between, on the one hand, proscribing racially motivated behavior that may be harmful in the Australian community, and on the other hand, preserving the freedoms of speech and religion that are so essential to the continued existence of a free democracy. Right, so all good and well for you to argue those points, but he did the wrong thing. So Therefore, there are consequences under our freedom of speech laws or whatever racial discrimination laws, whatever law our government's got, to be able to go, well, you said it. Yes, we have freedom of speech. That's the freedom of speech part, to be able to say it. But the consequence is what you said is vile and disgusting, and you are going to pay because of what you said. So, yeah. Otherwise, you let them get away with it, don't you? And you let the Jews feel intimidated, not safe in this country. Same with Christians. Oh, but if a Christian were to say anything vile or negative in a sermon, they're going to be taken to court or whatever else, and that's it. That's that. So then what? Honestly, this is really concerning. Really, really concerning. So two Muslim preachers, one of them can yell out, "May the wrath of Allah be upon them." Gee, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a threat. But because we know what the Allah they're referring to is not God, but the devil. So, and then you've got this other Muslim preacher pretty much saying we must defend the Quran because the Quran says that you must end the lives of Jews. They're infidels. And that's not the only one, I'll have you know. There are several other Muslim preachers that I've seen that all agree on the same thing. The Jews are horrible. Christians are horrible. Anyone that's not a Muslim is an infidel. And you got them chanting, going up and down the streets of Sydney, chanting Free Palestine, end the lives of Jews, Intifada, you name it. They're chanting it on the streets of Sydney, Australia, Melbourne as well. God help this country. We've allowed this to happen. Now we've got to take our country back. I don't know how we're going to do that, but it starts by voicing our concerns, doesn't it? I'm very concerned. Are you? Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.